Hey guys, Michael here with the dailynote.net, and today I want to talk about the upcoming features of the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, and then I want to compare it to the Galaxy Note 7 and maybe do a more realistic comparison to the Galaxy Note 8, the rumored specs of it, to the Galaxy Note 5 and what we can realistically expect from that. So let's first talk about the features, the rumored features of the Samsung Galaxy Note 8. So the most highlighted, biggest feature in my opinion is going to be the dual cameras in the back. That's going to be a first for a Samsung Galaxy device, and it's rumored to be, I think one of them's just going to be a standard wide lens, like 24 millimeters, and the other one should be 2 times or 3 times zoom. I believe Apple is doing two things with the dual lens on their phones. One, they're improving the low light performance by somehow converging the images. And then another thing that they're doing with this phone is they're providing a digitally processed, shallow depth of field image, especially for portraits. And a lot of people are happy with it. It's not perfect, but without pixel peeping or without looking too hard, it's actually a very convincing image. So if we could get it to that level, I think people would be happy. The rumor is Samsung is expecting it to be the best smartphone camera that's available for any smartphone. So we'll have to see. And the next feature is the infinity display. If you've seen the Galaxy S8 Plus, you should have seen just how long that display is. It's longer than 16:9. And I got to play around with the S8 Plus a bit. And definitely, I think it will be useful. And if you use multi-window, which is getting big these days with the launch of the Android 7.0 Nougat, if you use multi-window, I think it'll be especially more useful right now and definitely more in the future. So I think the infinity display makes sense. In my opinion, using the Galaxy VR goggles on something like the Galaxy Note 7, I felt we definitely need 4K on our displays. We don't need 4K for virtually anything else because the pixels are so small already. But for Galaxy VR goggles, I definitely think even 4K or maybe even better than 4K, like 6K or 8K, we will definitely see the difference because we're putting a magnifying glass pretty much on the pixels. And the smaller that gets, the more realistic the virtual reality is. And I believe the Galaxy Note 7 was HDR screen. The problem with HDR is that there really isn't too much HDR content for you to consume. Definitely nobody's like really distributing that. There's no like HDR movies being sold. To my knowledge, there may be some, maybe some are available through Netflix. Are they even pushing that to the mobile devices? I don't know, probably not. And another thing with HDR is that I believe there are definitely at least 2 competing technologies, and a lot of the companies are trying to put both of the technologies together, or they're trying to adopt a more popular one. But I don't think the standard is set in stone yet. And I think I'd be surprised if they don't even mention it on the Galaxy Note 8. But I'm going to guess they're going to push forward with HDR because Samsung is in the TV market as well. And it looks nice. It was definitely a topic that people were discussing last year. So we'll see if that feature is on the Galaxy Note 8. But from a real world perspective, it's in my opinion, you won't notice, because I had the Galaxy Note 7 for 9-10 months, and I don't think I ever watched HDR content on that, and I never thought to either, although the color and the display was amazing. The next feature is Bixby. There's a button on the side, and then it brings up something like Google Now or whatever Google calls it these days. It's kind of like Reddit for me. It's like a little, Google finds what I'm interested in and they populate this feed with my interests. And it works well. The weather is there. It tries to read through my email and then set reminders for me. It works and I like it. And do we need Bixby? Because in my opinion, I think Google is going above and beyond expectations of how that system should perform. And I'm not sure if Samsung's going to exceed that. But then again, let's give Bixby a chance because I believe Samsung is putting a lot of resources in it. But in my opinion, I'm already happy with Google's solution for it. And hopefully we could remap the button on the Galaxy Note 8. Now, here's something interesting, and here's something that nobody is talking about. But from the Galaxy Note 5 to the Galaxy Note 7, we had a big frames per second jump from, I believe, 120p or 120 frames per second video to 240 frames per second video for slow motion. And I thought the slow motion on the Galaxy Note 7 was really nice. If you look at the newer or the newest Sony phone, they even have 960 frames per second. But more importantly, the 960 frames per second is compromised. I believe they only read one line out of 4 lines. So you get, a very aliased image, and sure, it looks fine for some of the slow motion video. What's really nice is you're able to get 1080p with virtually no line skipping. No, that can't be right. You get a really good 1080p 240 frames per second image, and I believe the 240 frames per second on the Galaxy Note 7 was still 720p. It was a huge leap forward in the slow motion feature, and I believe there's a chance that we might actually get this the same slow motion capabilities on the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, because I don't think Sony is selling too many of those Sony Xperia devices, and I'm sure Sony is interested in selling that sensor to a manufacturer that could sell, tens of millions of devices. So compared to the Galaxy Note 7, the Galaxy Note 7 had a home button. This one is not going to have one. This one's going to have a longer display that you may be able to utilize in things like multi-window and maybe watching movies if you're willing to crop some of the image. So there's that. But, just like the Note 7 compared to the Note 5, we had the iris unlock. That was, semi-useful. Now, I used it a lot, but I think I just reverted to the pattern unlock. I had 3 selections on the home screen: the pattern unlock, the fingerprint sensor, and the iris unlock. And I never disabled any of them. And sometimes it made sense to use one over the other. And I never stopped using iris unlock. I never stopped using fingerprint unlock. I just used the 1 out of 3 that were all enabled. That was the most convenient at the time I was unlocking it. So I think the iris unlock is still going to be there. And people say it might be especially useful on the Galaxy Note 8 because the fingerprint sensor is going to be on the back in a possibly a very or semi-uncomfortable location. So it's not a bad feature, and I think it helps, so I hope they keep it. So one thing that's going to change for you is the USB Type-C connector. And in my opinion, for a lot of you, it might be not a downgrade, but it might be a hassle because for me, as much as I like gadgets, I actually don't own too many USB Type-C compatible gadgets. I used to own the Galaxy Note 7, and I own a camera, the Panasonic GH5, that has a USB Type-C connector, but virtually everything else is still micro USB and the other USB jack that everyone's forgotten about. So you have to use those adapters. I believe there's like 2 that come in the box, and they give you a cable, but to be honest, I felt like an early adopter of USB Type-C having the Galaxy Note 7. And then I could see that the USB Type-C standard is being rolled out slowly, and I think in about 5 years, the micro USB gadgets that I'll own will be in the minority But until then, I don't see too many benefits of USB Type-C. I don't see the charging going any faster, to be honest. The Galaxy Note 7, it did charge a larger battery in about the same time it charged a much smaller battery on the Galaxy Note 5. I'll give it that. But as in terms of real world visual benefits, you'll see very little, and you might feel a little inconvenience of having to adapt the connector everywhere you go. For example, if you have a car charger and it's micro USB, well, you're gonna have to use the connector, or maybe get a new car charger. And of course, one thing that was missing from the Galaxy Note 5 was the SD card slot, and hopefully that's still there. I think everybody's assuming that it's going to be on there because it was on the Galaxy Note 7. And one thing, in my opinion, the best feature or the biggest improvement that you'll see, the biggest change to your life if you get a Galaxy Note 8, if you are upgrading from a Galaxy Note 5, is definitely the battery life. People are saying the Galaxy Note 7, it seemed to have pretty much all the battery life that I wanted to use for the day, even if I used a lot of it. And I felt the battery life was perfect. Another thing that you wouldn't think maybe would be such a big deal is the design of the device itself. If you ever held the Galaxy Note 7 without a case, you would remember just how gorgeous of a device it was. I still think it is probably the best looking device ever made today. Even compared to the Galaxy S8 Plus, the Galaxy Note 7 still looked better. It was so uniform. The curves were perfect, and it was so elegant. And hopefully they could keep up that trend for the Galaxy Note 8. And Samsung does a really amazing job making their next device look better. And the last device that everybody loved and thought was perfect, somehow it starts looking like older generation. And it's a pretty amazing feat and accomplishment in design. So let's hope that the Galaxy Note 8 looks even better than the amazing Galaxy Note 7. And last but not least, what's going to be a big thing is Android 7.0. And one of my favorite features of Android 7.0 is you could enable this feature in developer options, where you could enable multi-window for all apps. Of course, some apps are going to crash, but enabling of the multi-window before was something that was left up to the developers. And a lot of the developers, even if the app could benefit a lot from it, they never bother to implement the multi-window feature because they have to program it in how this app's gonna behave in a tiny box or half the screen. And if they don't do that, sometimes the apps crash. And even though it might not be a feature for everyone, you might be thrown off at the instability of your apps. But if you know which ones you want to use and you know that one works, it's a great feature to have. I did a quick video yesterday about how to use Netflix in a multi-window. So anyways, those are my thoughts on the expectations for the Galaxy Note 8. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.